On a bright Washington morning, no one could have guessed the darkness waiting ahead in Sativa Transu's life. She was young, full of laughter, and still chasing dreams. Yet behind her warm smile hid a love that had quietly turned into fear. It started with small sacrifices, gentle apologies, and the kinds of excuses people make when they're holding on to hope. But control is a slow poison. It doesn't destroy all at once. It isolates you, changes how you think, and makes you believe that escape will only make things worse. So when Sativa agreed to spend Thanksgiving in Cancun with the man she once loved, no one imagined it would be her final attempt at forgiveness. She wasn't going for romance. She just wanted to get through one last week before leaving him forever. What was supposed to be a place of rest has become a cage by the sea. A paradise turned into a prison. Somewhere between the sound of the waves and the silence of a closing hotel door, Sativa's story shifted from hope to horror. On a bright Washington morning, no one could have guessed the darkness waiting ahead in Sativa Transu's life. She was young, full of laughter, and still chasing dreams. Yet behind her warm smile hid a love that had quietly turned into fear. It started with small sacrifices, gentle apologies, and the kinds of excuses people make when they're holding on to hope. But control is a slow poison. It doesn't destroy all at once. It isolates you, changes how you think, and makes you believe that escape will only make things worse. On a bright Washington morning, no one could have guessed the darkness waiting ahead in Sativa Transu's life. She was young, full of laughter, and still chasing dreams. Yet behind her warm smile hid a love that had quietly turned into fear. Sativa Transu was born on May 19, 1995, in Cheney, Washington, a small town where quiet streets and a local university created a close-knit community. Her mother, Jamie, became a mother at 16 and often said they were more like best friends than mother and daughter. Their bond was built on love, honesty, and trust. Colleagues remembered her as someone who brought positivity to every day. Even when she was exhausted, when she entered Eastern Washington University, Sativa majored in exercise science, expressing her passion for health, sports, and the human body. Her interest in wellness reflected her view on life: active, curious, and purposeful. After graduating in 2017, Sativa began working as a massage therapist at a company called Lucid. She was dedicated to her work, frequently taking extra shifts to build a stable future. Those around Taylor saw two different sides of him: quiet and polite when sober, loud, irritable, and sometimes violent when drunk. Despite their differences, Sativa and Taylor began dating. She was outgoing and kind. He was brooding and short-tempered. Their connection puzzled her friends and family. Perhaps she saw him as someone who needed help, and he saw her as someone he could control. What started as an odd pairing soon developed into something unhealthy and eventually dangerous. None of her loved ones yet realized that this relationship would end in tragedy. After a few months, Sativa moved in with Taylor in Milton, about 5 hours from her hometown. To her, it felt like a new beginning, a chance to be independent and build a life together. To him, it meant gaining control. At first, life seemed normal. He picked her up from work, helped with chores, and said he worried when she came home late. But his concern soon turned into suspicion. He questioned her constantly: who she was texting, why her phone was locked, and who she talked to. His jealousy grew worse each week, and even casual conversations with coworkers could set him off. Eventually, he installed spyware on her phone without her knowledge, secretly routing her messages to his laptop. Sativa had no idea she was being monitored. To Taylor, this invasion of privacy was just proof of his love. The first serious warning sign came over something trivial. When he couldn't assemble a new table, his frustration exploded. Grabbing a sledgehammer, he smashed the furniture to pieces while Sativa stood frozen, unsure what to do. It was the first time she witnessed how quickly his temper could turn violent. Jamie, Sativa's mother, noticed the change immediately. Sativa called home less often and began excusing Taylor's behavior. When friends asked if she was okay, She brushed off their concerns, saying that he was just tired and that it was her choice. Her responses became distant, as though she feared that outside help would only make things worse. From that point on, watching Sativa became part of Taylor's daily routine. He constantly checked her phone, email, her schedule, and even the people she met. Every move was monitored. To outsiders, they seemed like a normal couple. But behind closed doors, she was completely dependent on him. Sativa didn't yet understand that she wasn't living with a partner. She was living with someone who had long since crossed the line. The house in Milton, which was supposed to be her fresh start, slowly became a place where she no longer felt free. The love she once cherished turned into fear, the kind of fear that's impossible to simply walk away from. In August 2021, Sativa's sister Michaela decided to visit. It had been a while since she had seen Sativa, so she took a few days off and drove to Milton. Sativa greeted her with a smile, saying that everything was fine, but the house gave off a feeling of unease. As soon as she entered, Michaela noticed something was wrong. Holes in the walls, dented doors, broken handles, and many corners of the walls had signs of impact. When asked, Sativa calmly replied that they had only accidentally damaged a few spots and would fix them later. It sounded as if she had prepared that answer beforehand. Taylor, Sativa's husband, was rarely at home. He spent most of his time at work or out with friends, returning only to bring more tension. He was loud, drank heavily, and erupted over small things. There was no trace of warmth in his eyes. Michaela noticed that Sativa tensed whenever she heard his footsteps. One evening, while the two sisters were in the kitchen, Sativa joked that every time Taylor drank, she called him a monster. Behind that forced smile, Michaela could sense not only fear, but also exhaustion and resignation. The following days felt heavy. In the mornings, Sativa barely spoke. At night, she waited for Taylor to fall asleep before relaxing. Everything in that house revolved around his moods. Michaela knew what was happening but didn't know how to help. She gently suggested Sativa come home for a while, but Sativa just said she was fine, that Taylor was simply going through a rough time. When it was time for Michaela to leave, they packed in silence. Sativa stood at the door, saying everything was under control, but her eyes revealed the truth. On the drive home, Michaela didn't play any music. One thought kept repeating in her mind: something bad is going to happen. That feeling stayed with her for a long time. Taylor Allen embodied every trait of a malignant narcissist: jealous, controlling, dismissive, and unwilling to accept blame. He broke Sativa down emotionally, monitored her, and made her apologize for things she never did. He didn't want a partner. He wanted power. By the fall of 2021, their relationship had completely fallen apart. Sativa could no longer justify Taylor's temper or live with his constant suspicion. She had packed her bags many times, but something always kept her from leaving. Deep down, though, she knew it was over. She needed to go home. That's when Taylor surprised her. He suggested spending Thanksgiving in Cancun. He called it a fresh start and said a vacation would help them reconnect. Sativa hesitated. Thanksgiving had always meant family. Her mother's home in Washington, shared meals, and traditions she never missed. Jamie and Michaela advised her to stay home, but Taylor insisted, saying he was tired of arguing, that this trip would be different, a chance for change. His words sounded sincere, though she didn't believe them. Still, she agreed to go. She didn't agree out of hope, but because she had a plan. The trip would mark the end, quiet, final, without confrontation. She told coworkers she might move after the break, changed her phone, passwords, and left important documents and cash with her sister, just in case. For Taylor, it was a reconciliation. For her, it was a way out. Taylor eagerly prepared everything, choosing the All Ritmo Resort in Cancun. He promised there would be no arguments, no alcohol, just peace. But for Sativa, it was only a waiting period before freedom. Her goal was simple: survive the trip and start a new life without him. They both knew something would change after that trip. though neither expected how permanent that change would be. In November 2021, Cancun welcomed them with warm sun and heavy humidity. The Al Ritmo Resort looked like paradise. Pools, upbeat music, and tourists with drinks in their hands. On social media, Sativa posted perfect photos, smiling faces, beaches, palm trees. Friends commented how perfect it looked. No one knew that behind the lens, things were completely different. In her private messages to those closest to her, Sativa's tone changed completely. She said she just wanted the week to be over, which said it all. It was clear there was no real vacation at all. Taylor's promises lasted one day. By the second, he had opened a bottle of tequila to celebrate. After the first drink, his mood changed. After the third, he began to complain. Sativa avoided arguing, smiled for photos, and kept up appearances. To others, they looked like any other couple on vacation. Behind their hotel room door, everything fell apart. Taylor grew impatient, raised his voice, and demanded attention. Anything could set him off. A stranger's glance, a delayed reply, a laugh that didn't sound right to him. That evening, they sat at the bar. Taylor ordered more drinks, laughed loudly, and talked with strangers. Sativa stayed quiet, avoiding his temper. She texted Michaela that he had too much to drink and they were arguing about nothing again. By midnight, the arguments turned into shouts. People in nearby rooms heard the noise. First angry voices, then the sound of impact against furniture. The next morning, Sativa posted another smiling photo by the pool, pretending nothing had happened. The rest of the week followed the same pattern. Days looked normal. Nights were a cycle of jealousy and fights. Taylor checked her phone, interrogated her, drank more with each passing day. Hotel staff observed that Sativa appeared tired, but there were no public incidents. In her messages, she kept saying that he was still the same. She also told a friend that she felt things were over and that she just wanted to go home. Those messages were the final straw. Her decision to leave was clear. To everyone else, they were just another couple on vacation. But to Sativa, it was a week of surviving next to someone she no longer loved. What was supposed to be a fresh start in Cancun had become a trap, one she would never escape. The night of November 26, 2021, was Sativa's last night alive. The day began calmly. Breakfast, a trip to the beach, sunny photos. In her social media stories, she smiled with the ocean behind her and a cocktail in hand. That evening, she and Taylor had dinner at the hotel restaurant. At first, everything seemed normal. They ordered food, chatted casually, and laughed. But as the meal went on, Taylor began drinking heavily again, tequila shots, then piña coladas. His tone and expression changed. His face turned red, his voice louder, his eyes glassy. After dinner, they went to the bar. That's when things started to unravel. He kept drinking while Sativa tried to stay calm and avoid confrontation. Several times, she stepped outside for fresh air and texted a friend that he was drinking again and getting angry again. About half an hour later, guests heard shouting. Some noticed the argument but assumed it was just a fight between a drunk couple. Eventually, hotel security escorted them back to their room. After the door closed, silence reigned. Later, it emerged that a fight had broken out. Taylor hit Sativa, leaving a deep cut on her chin. Hotel medics treated and stitched the wound. When asked what happened, she said she had fallen and insisted she was fine. But witnesses saw how frightened she looked and how little eye contact she made. Afterward, Taylor's behavior became erratic. He swung between apologizing and threatening to end the relationship or even his own life. Staff intervened when he tried to jump out the window. His mood kept shifting, from anger to remorse, while Sativa stayed quiet. People in nearby rooms later reported hearing screams, broken furniture, and loud noises around midnight. People discussed it the next morning, but no one called hotel staff or authorities. Everyone assumed it was just a couple arguing while traveling. After midnight, everything went silent. By 9 o'clock, Sativa's phone showed no activity. No messages, no posts, No. Likes. That immediately made Michaela's older sister worried, because she always answered right away. Michaela kept texting and calling, then posted on Facebook that if anyone knew what was going on with Sativa, please let her know. Michaela didn't know her sister was already gone. Somewhere around midnight, as the hotel quieted and the air conditioners hummed, 26 years old, Sativa from Cheney, Washington, took her last breath inside their room at Al Ritmo Resort. The next morning, November 27, the housekeeper found her lifeless, lying face down, a bag over her shoulder, as though she had tried to leave but never made it. The medical examiner confirmed the cause of death: strangulation. There were multiple bruises on her face, arms, chest, and legs. The marks on her neck were clear and symmetrical, showing a strong, controlled grip maintained for several minutes. This was not an accident or a sudden rage. It was intentional violence. An act of control. Forensic evidence shows that during strangulation, a person loses consciousness after about 30 seconds. But it takes 4 to 5 minutes for breathing to stop completely. For that entire time, the attacker must continue applying pressure, fully aware of what they are doing. Experts call those minutes the zone of choice, the point when the aggressor could stop, seek help, or release their grip. He did not stop. Psychologists and criminologists describe strangulation as a deliberate, intimate form of violence, one that asserts dominance rather than momentary anger. As British domestic violence expert Jane Monckton-Smith explained, this kind of act isn't spontaneous rage, but a demonstration of power. It's about deciding whether the victim lives or dies. Sativa's final moments stretched into several minutes of pain, fear, and realization that no help was coming. On the other side of the wall, other guests slept. The air conditioner droned softly. Party music faded into silence. No one heard her last heartbeat. When Sativa's body was found, Taylor was nearby in a hotel bathrobe. During questioning, he claimed he remembered nothing and said she had fallen. But the evidence was indisputable. The marks, the signs of struggle, and the absence of any attempt to help her. Murder is not instantaneous. It takes time. A long minutes in which the attacker knows what is happening and has the chance to stop. Taylor had that choice. He didn't. The final 5 minutes of Sativa's life not only reveal the crime, but also show that it was not an act of rage. It was a deliberate, cold, and calculated decision directed at a living human being. On November 29, 2021, Mexican police announced that an American citizen had been arrested in Cancun, suspected of killing his partner. In the released photo, Taylor Allen appeared unshaven, wearing a white hotel robe, his expression blank. This was the first and only official confirmation of his arrest. Taylor was charged with possibly killing Sativa. However, the case quickly took an unexpected turn. On December 2, he was rearrested in the United States, but on charges unrelated to her death. Meanwhile, Mexican authorities continued their investigation as Sativa's body remained in a morgue in Cancun. Her family faced an overwhelming series of legal complexities, paperwork, translation issues, and the high cost of repatriation, all of which delayed bringing her home. To help cover these expenses, Sativa's mother and sister created a GoFundMe campaign with a goal of $50,000. Thanks to the support of friends, neighbors, and strangers, they nearly reached that goal within 2 weeks. On December 9, Sativa's body was returned to Washington. 12 days after her death, her family was finally able to say goodbye. A memorial service was held in Spokane on December 11, attended by over 200 people. The room was decorated with purple balloons, her favorite color. Later, at the Wagon Wheel Bar and Grill, one of Sativa's favorite places, her loved ones gathered again to celebrate her life. Photos covered the walls. Candles lit the tables. No one spoke directly about the crime, but everyone knew. Meanwhile, the investigation in Mexico progressed slowly. The judicial system there operates differently from the one in the U.S. The first hearing, set for September 8, 2022, was canceled due to a procedural error in notifying the defendant, Taylor's lawyers used this setback to request more delays, and the following months dragged on. In the fall of 2023, Sativa's sister, Michaela, shared an update on both the GoFundMe page and the Justice for Sativa group. She explained that their lawyer had informed them that Taylor had filed an appeal, which would once again delay the process for several months. He is currently being held in a Cancun prison. The family continues to wait for the trial, expected to take place in 2024 and open to the public. Every delay has been another painful setback for them, but they believe it's part of the defense's strategy to exploit every legal technicality to postpone justice. Mexico officially abolished the death penalty in 2005. The last execution occurred in 1961. Still, the country imposes harsh penalties for femicide, often life imprisonment or lengthy sentences without parole. Unlike the United States, where femicide isn't formally defined under federal law, Mexico recognizes and prosecutes it as a specific crime. Taylor Allen is now awaiting trial in a Cancun prison. His name is public, his actions recorded, and his behavior undeniable, but the legal process is still ongoing. He once believed he could control Sativa, her words, her movements, her environment, even her breathing. Now, the only thing he can control is the time between this moment and the day he hears his sentence. Why do people stay in dangerous relationships? The reasons are real and deeply human. The fear of being alone can seem greater than the fear of harm. Emotional or financial dependence can make independence feel impossible. There's also the warped idea of love, where control is seen as care and jealousy is mistaken for passion. That illusion is often strengthened by shame, social expectations, and false promises of change. Together, these forces can bind someone more tightly than any physical restraint, keeping them trapped long after they've recognized the danger. But Michaela doesn't just grieve the death of her sister Sativa, she acts on it. She manages a page sharing updates about the case, speaks at events about recognizing signs of abuse, raises funds for survivors, and has organized a charity run in Sativa's memory. Her mission is clear: to seek justice and help prevent others from suffering the same fate.